Hello and welcome back into the Knicks-Verse. My name is George, and if this is your first time here, or you've been here before and haven't subscribed yet, it'd be awesome if you did, and turn on the notification bells, and hit the thumbs ups, and drop your comments. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of comments about this particular video. Yes, this particular video. All right, let's go. We're going to talk about whether lineup changes are possible, whether they're going to happen, and whether they're going to happen soon. And what should they actually be? I've broken some things down, and I think you're going to find it interesting what I'm going to suggest. It's pretty dramatic, so stay tuned. Just to recap, this was a tweet that Fred Katz put out yesterday about Thibodeau's quote after the post game, which has made it everywhere. It's on all over ESPN. It's become national news. Basically, because he used the word bullshit at the end. That's right. It is bullshit what the starting unit has been doing right now, which is basically creating deficits that the team just has to claw out of. They've also, in verse, created leads and given them up. That's another thing we cannot overlook. It's easy after the Bucks game to see, okay, well, you know, the starting unit puts us in holes, and then the bench or a combination of the bench with starters have to climb us out of that hole. And it actually worked in Milwaukee, where we came back and won that game dramatically, but it didn't work last night. The comeback fell short. But, like I said, the starting unit has also been able to build leads and given them up. So, there is something wrong, and today Thibodeau was asked about this particular question about lineup changes being possible. Let's check it out.
Are you going to consider making any changes to the starting lineup?
You know, like you think about everything all the time, so just come in, make your corrections, concentrate on improvement, and get ready for the next game.
So you're not ready to make any changes?
No. You know, we basically have a 10-man rotation, so, and as we get some rhythm, we'll start mixing and matching some more. The second unit's been together longer, so they have a chemistry. We got to make sure that, you know, everything's tied together. There has to be connectivity between both groups, you know, so and then with each other when they're on the floor. So we can't have stretches where, you know, we hit lulls where we don't defend or we don't rebound. You know, offensively, I know there's going to be some nights we shoot it better than others. That every team goes through that, but you have to have the ability to win, you know, where you can depend on your defense and your rebound.
Okay, so there you heard. There's a possibility there's going to be some lineup adjustments, rotation adjustments. He has the 10 men, but how he actually aligns them, a possibility. I mean, this is coach speak. He is announcing that changes are being looked at. But what changes are they going to be? Would it just be starting Rose? Would it be benching Fournier and starting Burks to give us a little more perimeter defense? What is the solution? Well, but let's look at this. This was obviously the famous post game from after the Bucks game. The Knicks lost and they gave up the lead. Thibodeau on the idea of the starting unit needs 20 games to gel. Yeah, you know what they say: when it's 10 games, you say you need 20. When you get 20, you say 30. And when you get 30, you say 40. And then before you know it, the season's over. It's a bunch of bullshit, and it is a bunch of bullshit. This is it. We're 3 weeks in to the regular season. They had 4 games preseason, and they had the preseason to training camp. So they've been together. They've been doing this for almost 2 months now. This unit, the starting unit, should be gelling by now. And I think their hot start kind of, it cast a veil over what the deficiencies were. And when players when a team can outshoot another team, all right, fine. That's what you do. But when they struggle offensively and the defense isn't there to hold them, then big leads, actually big deficits get created, and you give up big leads, which is, remember, this is not just about the starting unit creating deficit that the bench has to claw their way out of. It actually, we've seen the inverse as well, where we've actually built leads and we've given them up. And a lot of it is because of the defense. It is because of the defense. Offensively, we still have a top 4 offense in the league, but our defense is way down. It's like 25th or 26th right now. Here we go. Derrick Rose, this is a tweet by Ian Begley. Derrick Rose says New York starters and bench have bad habit of trying to ease into games. We try to get a feel instead of being the aggressor. We're not good enough to give people points or give them confidence. All right, I want you guys to stick with this video because I'm going to propose something pretty dramatic in terms of lineup changes. And then I'm going to show you my support for that. Let's look at something else here. This is from Fred Katz from The Athletic. This was an article that he posted, I think it was today. The starters just keep falling behind. They have played 205 minutes together this season and are getting outscored by a whopping 14.4 points per 100 possessions. The bench, meanwhile, is a wrecking crew. When Derrick Rose, Quickly, Alec Burks, and Obi Toppin are on the floor, he said, let's leave the center out of the statistics since because of injuries and the 5-man in the second unit has rotated between Taj and Nerlens and small lineups. The Knicks outscore opponents by a dominant 23.5 points per 100 possessions. So with Rose, Quickly, Burks, and Obi, 23.5 possessions. That is a very dramatic swing right there. That's a 37.9 point swing. That's wait, is that correct? Yes. Either way. Look at this. The net rating. I posted this in the recap from last night. You can see the net rating: Nerlens, Toppin, Rose, Quickly, Burks, Taj, all plus net ratings. All the minus ones are our 5 starters. Here's the plus minus. Same story. Same story there. So what are we talking about here? What is the main issue? One thing is the Knicks are giving too many wide open threes. Now I know last season that was a part of the strategy, but it's not working this season. Something is off. Here we are. This is the Knicks opponents. This is wide open threes. That means 6 feet or beyond. That's pretty wide open. The Knicks are last in 3-point field goal frequency, which is 24.8%. Last in allowing 3-point attempts, 22.5, and last in 3-point field goals made, allowed, 9.6. So opponents are connecting on almost 10 3-pointers a game against this team, and the 3-point percentage that we're allowing is 28th, 42.6%. We're getting killed. We're getting killed on the perimeter, and that is the story. And here's the thing. If our first unit was scorching the opponent inversely like this, then it wouldn't necessarily be that big of a crisis right now. So this is what I'm going to propose. Here's the adjustments. I think we should start Rose and IQ with RJ and Randall, and whether it's Nerlens or Mitch, doesn't matter to me. But at this point, we might as well look at Nerlens starting as well. But let's just leave those 2 out of it because, as I'll show you the stats, the advantages of one over the other with this foursome isn't necessarily that dramatic. But these 4 should be the starting players on this team. The number one reason is, at this moment, they are our 4 best players. And they have the best chemistry between them. And they know the Thibodeau scheme. Here's another reason why you don't switch out just Kemba or Fournier. Because then you'll be pointing the finger at one specific player. If you swap out Kemba for Rose, you're saying it's all Kemba's fault. And it's not, because it's also Fournier's fault as well. And when you say fault, I'm just saying they don't have the chemistry. So I don't want to put the blame on any specific players. It's the chemistry that even RJ and Randall, they're not utilizing Kemba and Fournier the right way either. We're into this. We're past the 1/8 of the season. We need to get this together because now in the early part of the year is where we have to rack up the wins, rack up the W's. And we can't afford to wait any longer for Kemba, Fournier, RJ, and Randall to develop the chemistry that's needed to win consistently in this league. And also the East is stacked. There's too many teams competing for those playoff spots. And right now we are outside of the playoff. We are in the play-in scenario. I think we're 7th right now. So we'd have to do a play-in. We don't want to do that. We want to avoid that. And in fact, there's no reason why this team with the skill set that they have could not be a 3rd seed or even a 4th seed at the minimum. Here's the other thing. And then, like I just pointed out, we got to reduce open threes. And I think Kemba, Fournier with Burks will be they could actually develop a nice chemistry together. Now let's go to some stats here. All right. So this is what it looks like. They've only played 12 possessions this whole year, where Rose, IQ, RJ, and Julius have only played 12 possessions. But they're a plus 52.3 in differential. Yep. And that's with Mitch and Burks that they play at times. All right. See, one time it was a small ball lineup, and the other time it was Mitch. No Nerlens. No Nerlens in this scenario. However, let's look at last year. So last season, when Rose, IQ, RJ, and Julius played together, they played 124 possessions. An okay amount. That's about a game and a quarter. They're a plus 20.9. Now that was with Taj and Nerlens, depending on the different alignments there. So you can see that they develop a nice chemistry, these four. They really do. They're pretty dynamic. Now let's look at Kemba and Fournier, because you're like, okay, well, what was the deal with them? Maybe they're just the problem. Look how they played it with the Celtics last season. Kemba and Fournier played 392 possessions last season together, and they were a plus 13.9. Plus 13.9. Yes, differential. Their offense scored 120.2 points per game, and the defense only allowed 106.2. So they can play defense. They can. And the other thing is, too, got to remember, towards the end of last season, the regular season, Kemba and Fournier really had some great chemistry. In fact, Kemba averaged 28.1 points per game in his last 7 games for a plus minus of a plus 1.6. He shot 42.6% from the 3-point line. He almost averaged 5 rebounds per game, 4 assists, and even had 1.3 steals per game. Fournier, at that same time, his last 7 games, he averaged almost 20 points per game. He averaged 19.9 points per game, a plus minus of plus 1.4. He shot 56.9% from the 3-point line. 4 rebounds. He actually averaged more assists than Kemba in those last 7 games, 4.7, and he had 1.1 steals. So they can do it. They just need time to understand and get familiar with Thibodeau's defensive scheme. And I think that has to happen under less of a microscope than the starting unit. This will take some pressure off them. It'll allow them to get for the team to get into a flow, and then they can come in. What I'd like to see is the first ones off the bench could be Kemba and Fournier. Come in and they can get time with RJ and Randall towards the end of that first quarter, and then you bring in Burks and Obi for RJ and Randall, and whatever you want to do with the center at that point, depending on the matchups. That's the kind of rotation adjustments that I would like to see happen, and I think that would lead to, it would allow the team to get off to better starts, number one. Number two, it takes advantage of the chemistry that's already existing, and you may think, oh, well, this weakens our bench. Well, in some ways, it may not weaken the bench. It may not actually weaken the bench, because Kemba and Fournier, they can shoot, man. They can shoot, and they'll be playing against the other team's bench players, so they can exploit the other side's weaknesses. That's one of the things we have to bear in mind here. This, team and opponent stats. Okay, so in 3-point attempts, we are 9th in terms of taking, but we are 29th in allowing attempts. In this, according to Basketball Reference. And everywhere we're averaging 37.1% 3-point field goal percentage, but the opponents are shooting 37.6%. So we're getting beat. We're getting beat there, and that has to change for this team to move forward and start racking up some wins consistently. That's what this is all about. This is the unit I want to see on the floor. I want to see our plus 52.3 differential unit from this season. That's plus 52.3. I know it's only 12 possessions, but this is the move to make. This is the move to make. Oh, man. All right. Well, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you did. Please subscribe and hit the thumbs ups. Drop your comments. I'd love to hear your feelings and input about what I'm proposing here. And I think whether this might happen for the Charlotte game, it's hard to say because, Charlotte, that's Kemba's former team. So it may not happen then, but possibly this is something that'll happen on Monday because they're going to have Saturday and Sunday off. So it gives an additional day off in between for Thibs to implement this during practices. And on Monday, I'd like to see the changes. All right. Thank you so much for watching this, and I will see you guys around the Knicks-Verse.